Hello, everyone, and welcome to April's special event where we have a very special guest. This is a lady a friend I've known for many, many years, more than 20 years I've known Giada. We met in the Vatican Library. That is a true story, and we've been friends ever since. She is super, super talented, and since I'm in Italy, we had a chance to reconnect and had a coffee in Rome, and we talked about doing some collaborations. And one of these collaborative efforts is this talk today, and I'm really thrilled. I'm actually going to let her give her the spotlight. So what we're going to do, here's the format. Anyone at any point can ask Giada a question directly. I'm going to start as the moderator, but I'm very happy for anyone else to sort of just step in. Giada also has her children here, so they might also make a cameo. A cameo is like an appearance. So Giada is obviously a friend of mine, but super talented. She was a PhD in history when we met, and she's taken that academic endeavors and also her creative abilities as an actress, because she did acting as well. And she's combined that into several different interesting endeavors, one of which is writing. And she's one of Italy's most prolific historical fiction writers. And not only Italy's, she's now translated into many languages, and she has an international audience. She frequently is invited, as she was yesterday, to sit on panels or be interviewed by amongst the top writers, male or female, regardless of genre, in Italy. So it's a real honor that she's decided to join us and give us a little bit of her time, because she literally is speaking everywhere, talking or acting somewhere on some stage, and it's a real pleasure. Giada, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. But are you speaking about somebody else? I mean,
so I want to start out. So this is obviously the speaking club is language related. So my questions are going to have that sort of angle to them. And actually, we had a really interesting chat in Cafe Greco about your philosophy of English and language and why it's important. I'd like to come back to that today if you want to remind our audience to share that. But I want to start out with something very basic. Tell us how you're Italian, you grew up in Italy, in Pescara. I want you to tell us how you learned English to such a level, and what did you do? Because we're all here learning English.
Okay, the story is very funny. I grew up I'm now in Pescara at the sea, sun, this beautiful stuff. But I grew up in Bologna, in Middle Italy, where the food is great. And when I was in what would that be? I don't know where all of you are from, but let's say when I was 12, 13 years old, my English teacher in school, she said my parents, I simply didn't like her. And she told my parents that I was very, very bad in English, and I would never, ever in my life learn another language. I speak 5. So my daddy decided to send me to England. I arrived in Manchester. I flew from Milan to Manchester alone with 14. I didn't know anybody. I didn't know any word in English. I was able to say my name is Giada. I arrived there. I was supposed to go to a family, and they picked me at the airport with a big panel with written my name on. So I knew I had to go with them. And then I was there for a month. The first week I was like, oh my God, I don't understand anything. It's terrible. I want to cry. I want to go back. It's cold. I don't like it. I help and so on. And then I am really chatty. I really love to speak constantly. And so I said, no, it can't be that I cannot communicate with these people, even because I used to go to school with them, because there was a girl in the family that was exactly my age. So I was going to school with her, and there were very good looking boys there, and it was impossible that I couldn't speak. So I started with hands and feet, and then suddenly, at a certain point, after, let's say, 2 weeks, 2.5, I could start understanding something. And since I'm not ashamed. Chris said that I'm an actress too, and it is, I don't know, 40 years I'm on stage. I love to be on stage. I'm not afraid. This is one of the things that you should do when you start learning a language. Don't be afraid. It doesn't matter if you make mistakes. They don't speak your language as good as you do, so they have to help or be patient with your fun English. Moreover, I'm Italian, so in England, it's very well liked, the accent and the way we do and speak. Now I'm trying not to speak too much with the hands, but I used to do it a lot. I still do it a lot, actually. So I started, and then every year for I don't know, till I was 20 or something, I used to go to England every year a month. And my friend Carrie, she used to come to Italy, but she was not interested in learning Italian. She was just interested in being in summer here at the beach and do the parties and everything. So as I said before, I was speaking with the lady that is now in Michigan. What was her name again?
Walad.
Voila, okay. And I used to make her, I wanted to make her feel happy, you know, and together with us to understand everything. So I used to translate for her everything. So I would sit near her, and all the conversation that were around, I would translate all the time. And this, I think, I have no idea. This is maybe the way I learned to do synchro speaking. I often do it for authors from Germany, England, France, US, and I don't know, probably Chris remembers it, because then I lived 10 years in Switzerland after we met, 10 years in Germany, changing constantly language, English, French, Italian, German or so. But, and then now I have, I think, this so-called international English. But when we met, I used to speak real West Yorkshire English. You're laughing, I see you laughing. Because I used to say things like, but, much. And he would like, oh my God, you can't speak like this. It's terrible. Because I learned it in Huddersfield, that is in this town in between Manchester and York. And for me, it's very easy to understand Northern people, Scottish, Irish, West Yorkshire people. I have problems with Cockney, for example, because sometimes, you know, I'm not used to it. And being with all international people, the accent changed a bit. But if I'm with my friends from there, then I go back to what's your name?
What's your name? That's right.
Exactly.
I want to fast forward, move to up to now, or over your career. What role, and I actually don't know the full answer to this, what role has English played? I know you know a lot of languages, you've been exposed, but how are you using English now? Or, you know, you're writing in Italian, but you're translating, you know, what are you doing in English these days?
I'm doing a lot in English. I think that English nowadays, this is why I grew up my kids with three languages. It's like not having the right arm. It is impossible not to understand at least basic English. I write in English. I have conferences. I used to work in university. When we met with Chris, I used to work in university. I was teaching history, and now actually I'm back, but teaching something different, and then we will speak about it. And English I used to use also for conferences and constantly for theater. I used to play also when I was in university. Very often I was playing Shakespeare, and I did in English. I did the Taming of the Shrew, and I was the Shrew. I was playing Midsummer Night. I was playing the Mother of Hamlet. Many different Shakespearean plays, and I was doing it in English. And actually living in an international community, because then I moved to Spain, to Germany, to Switzerland. Switzerland especially was very international. And you have, I don't know, a dinner with 14 people and 12 different nationalities. What do you use? English. There is no other possibility.
That's great. Why don't you tell us about, I think I'm also very curious about the writing. I know you started out as a serious historian. You've gone back to academia, and we'll talk about your university and our possible collaboration at university at the end. But let's talk about your writing and how you got into historical fiction. I think I know a little bit about this, but why don't you tell us how you got into writing and what writing does for you, and do you have a schedule, how you write? Just tell us a little bit. And then, of course, we want to know some of your ideas, how you came up with some of these topics and, your plots. It's a lot of questions there.
The writing, actually, I'm a very, very big reader. I used to read a lot always. Then I did languages in university. Then I was starting writing little things, but not real stories. Then when my career in university went on, I had to write academic things, academic writing, essays, articles, and all of this, especially in history. And I used to teach history and I love it. And I used to teach history in university. And then I found out that my students, when I was there, since I was teaching it, but playing it already, because I was doing a lot of theater, they were fascinated. And the best was when they would say, oh, but it's fantastic history. It's not this annoying thing made of dates and things. It's really cool. It's really interesting. So I said to myself, yeah, it is indeed. So maybe I start writing a story that tells about history, but it's also, full with passion and killings. And I love crime stories. I love to understand enigmas and all these kind of things. So I started writing it and I never stopped. And I love to write historical novels because even though I have to follow certain rules, because it's clear that a Roman soldier cannot watch the watch and say, oh, it's 3:15, we have to go. So you have to be very careful with many things. Actually, it lets me free to tell the things exactly how they were, how our society developed. And in this way, making the reader interested in the story that is, adventure, there is love, there is everything that the story should have. But maybe a little bit, he understands also what are the social, the historical and religious roots of our culture. And this is incredibly funny, interesting for me. So I go on writing it. And after that, I also started to write for the theater. That is, again, another kind of writing, but very free. And I can be politically not correct. I hate to be politically correct. And in theater, and I say it because politically correctness is now a little bit too extreme. And I believe as an historian that if you know the things and you can call the things with their names, you understand them better and you understand why they are wrong or they shouldn't be done or whatever it is. And in theater, actually in Italy especially, it's still a very free place because I've been in television. I did a lot of interviews or things in television, but they cut what they don't like. They tell you, oh, you shouldn't say this, you can't speak about that. They try to censor some of my books, and I was really, really mad, and I made out of it a marketing news because they were saying it is not possible that they censor in 2024. And in theater, actually, you still can say it. You have the public life, you say it. Maybe they arrest you afterwards, but you said it. So it's a place where you can still be a free intellectual and do free politics in the way politics was born. Yeah.
Let's talk on that before we get to some of the themes of your books, which are very interesting. What about, you're a woman and you were in academia at a time when in Italy, at least, it was male dominated and very difficult. How has it been for you as a woman to break out, you know, become successful in several different areas? Maybe talk, because we have a lot of obviously female listeners here. Maybe talk about some of the struggles particular to Italy and as a woman in some of these different endeavors.
Yeah, it was really difficult. You know that we spoke many times about it. I had problems. I had requests that I had to refuse. You know, sometimes Italians do this request you can't refuse. But actually, it was very difficult because, moreover, I was studying history. I did my PhD in history of southern area and Mediterranean area, southern Italy, Mediterranean area. And they were all barons. We used to call them barons. There are still some in university, but it was quite complicated because they were all men, and they always very often said, "Oh, but you are from the north. I'm from Bologna. It's northern Italy. Why do you study the south?" I'm interested in it, and moreover, I'm a woman, and it seems that women are not good for history. They are not really good to study history. So from the academic point of view, it was difficult. They even asked me to write things and books, and then I saw these writings published with the name of somebody else. And I had also difficulties with especially one professor that sexually was very aggressive with me and blackmailed me. I was able to deal with it, to say no, to reach my PhD in any way. I wrote about it in the book that is La Dama Rossa, that is coming out in the new form in 3 days, that is has been translated in English, The Scarlet Lady, and in Spanish, La Dama Roja. And of course, I use it's in 1938. It's an enigma to solve. It's a crime story and so on. But I put in also this topic because for me it was very important to tell it in a way that people might understand and guess what happened. And but I always was very strong, and I said, I can do it. I have the head to do it. I will go on. Then I got my PhD. I went away and I started writing historical fiction. So I went on with research because writing historical fiction is anyway a lot of research that you have to do. So I kind of went on doing research as I wanted, but at the same time, I could speak about the history of people because also I was forced for my PhD thesis when we met with Chris. I was forced, he knows it. I was very unhappy because I was forced to do institutional history. And actually, I wanted to study the witches in southern Italy and Mediterranean area in 16th century. And I had to do something in 18th century of this institutional history, rights, laws, and all this stuff because I'm very interested in social history, and I always have an eye of on women in history. I always tell through the books what happened and why we are at this point, because I believe that you cannot understand it unless you really know how it was. Violence is not only beating up, violence is not allowing them to study. But because if you know less, you have less words, you have less thoughts, and it is easier to control you. If violence is also not allow you to go working. You only work at home and you're not paid for it. You take care of the kids of the house, you're not paid for it. You stay at home, so you're not independent economically, so you're always constantly dependent on someone. Violence is your father that decides that you have to go to the nuns in a monastery in clausure and become a nun, even if you don't want to, you're not interested, simply because everything has to be inherited by your older brother or the first brother, and in this way the money are not of the family will not be divided. Violence is all of this. And so in the books, when I have this, when I tell the stories, I always put something in it because it is important for me to tell it. Violence is to accuse a midwife to be a witch simply because the baby that was born dead or something, or to accuse her because she could cure with herbs, and she could cure bones and so on. These are the witches that have been burned simply because they were women with the knowledge of the female body. If they are midwives, you know, till 50, 60 years ago, the men, they were out of the birth room. Nobody was coming in. Normally it was home. So it was when life is born, it's a women thing. It was a women thing. And it's a knowledge that can be, you know, considered witchy. So I have a book that speaks about witches, a true process for witchcraft. And of course, I have full archives. I have full, you know, documents that I can look for from the Vatican, where I met Chris, to all the other archives in the world. I'm never out of stories, let's put it this way, because I tell life through history, and with a story that might be interesting for the public.
Well, I've got some more questions I'm going to ask, but if anyone would like to ask a question, why don't you write it in the chat, and then I'll know you have a question, and then I'll let you ask it. So write it in the chat or raise your hand if you want to ask Giada any question about her very colorful career. So Giada, you've had, I know because of our friendship, you have had some very difficult moments and periods. I want to ask how that has influenced your educating your two lovely, talented daughters, because obviously you've taken your experiences and your perceptions and you've tried to impart, teach them, you know, to have a better life. That's what parents want. So why don't you tell us about, and especially your approach to their learning languages? So how have you, you know, how has their education been different to yours when you were growing up? What do you tell them about English and languages in general?
Okay, the education in general was different because they are partially Italian and partially German. So of course, parents that are not from the same place. It is Europe, but we had very different educations and we think in a different way. And this comes also from the language, by the way, from the language that you speak, because German, for example, it's a very strict language. For example, the verb is always in second position. Whatever you're saying, a question, a past, a future, it's always in the second position. And for them, thinking going from A to B is always a straight line. For Italians, it's not like this. We think as we speak. And it is exactly what I experienced also learning many languages, that people think depending on which one is their mother tongue. They have different approach to life and to all the important themes depending on their language, because of the rules, because of what is inside and so on. So their education has been, let's say, multiculti, because we've been around, because at home, the rule is we speak, everybody speaks his own language, the language that he speaks best. I don't want that they learn my bad accent in English. I don't want that they learn my bad German English. I want them to learn my good Italian. Moreover, I'm working with words. And I never spoke with them as kids, as little tippy, my little daughter. No, this has never been, because they are not stupid, the kids. They are only little persons. So it is totally useless to teach them this stupid kid speaking. And actually, they started very soon, especially the younger daughter. With 14 months, she could do a full sentence in Italian, German, and English. And I mean, full sentence means subject, verb, complement, correctly done and conjugated and everything. And now she is studying languages. And also my older daughter never had the problem with the switch. You know, if you grow up with different languages, when we go out for dinner, for example, we sit there and the waiter never know which menu to bring us, because I speak my husband in English, because when we met, I couldn't speak German and he couldn't speak Italian. I do speak German now, but he still doesn't speak Italian because, you know, boys are a little bit more lazy, let's put it this way. And so we still speak in English. And the girls, if they speak with me, they speak in Italian. If they speak with him, they speak in German, and we speak in Italian or in German with them. But if it is all together, is English. So when we sit in a restaurant, they like, which menu do you want? It doesn't matter, bring us one. And what I want to say with this is that the switch is no problem for people that grew up like them with 3 languages constantly. The only very, very important rule is only one. And I asked it even to a friend that is a PhD in linguistics. And she said, you can go up to 5, 6 languages. It's no problem, but it has to be always consequent. So if you speak in Italian with them, you speak in Italian. It's not that you do 3 words in Italian, then they don't know the word flower, so you say it in English, then you put 2 words in German, because then it's not gonna work. They will speak only one language and understand the others. In the end, so I always have been consequent. So I always spoke in Italian, and I only answered if they would speak to me in Italian. Can you pass me the water, Mom? I don't even get it. I don't understand. Till they tell me, Mamma, mi passi l'acqua? So they do speak, and now that we moved back to Italy after many years in Germany, they speak fantastic Italian, and the teachers are confused because they studied 8, 9 years in Germany. So they studied always in German, but they speak Italian like me. So when they have to write or when they have to study in Italian that they never did, of course, now they learned already, it's 5, 6 months that we are here, but they had at the beginning little difficulties, and the teachers were like, I don't get it, but they speak so good. Yeah, but they never studied in Italian, you know? So it's yeah, very challenging but interesting, and I think it makes you also think in another way. For example, they never had the problem, they never fear people that speak another language. For example, they were 3 and 4, they have 17 months of difference. They were 3 and 4, and we were on holiday. And at a certain point, the older one comes and says to the other one, oh, come on, we can play with these kids that are down there. Come on, we can play. They speak like daddy, more or less. They were Dutch, but with German and English, knowing German and English, they could understand. And it was fantastic because she said they speak like daddy, more or less, because she recognized that there were many words that sounded a bit like German, and the rest was easy to understand with English. So they played with them and it was no problem. They played with Russian kids, trying to get different, you know, the few words, or they never had the problem, and they always tried to understand each other. Then they have the Italian genes, so they speak with hands and feet. And so people normally still understand what they are saying, and Chris knows them. They do, since they were little, they were also speaking English in a correct way.
I would like, Olga has asked a question. Olga, would you like to ask it, please? Where are you? We've got 2 Olgas here. So Olga asked a question. Why don't you ask it?
Yeah, sure. I'm very sorry. I'm not at home, so it may be noisy. So Thank you very much, Giada, for this live. I'm so excited to meet you. Thank you. It was very interesting to listen to you. And I have an interesting question for you. Could you tell us, please, what inspires you to working and what inspires you to write and write and don't stop? Yeah, it's really, I understand that that is a very creative process. It requires so much creativity and it requires so much energy. So what inspires you? Could you
A
tell
lot of
us?
things. Yes, of course, a lot of things. The document, so three real things that happened in the past. I am not this kind of authors that say, I write because I have no. I just write because I have a good story to tell. And normally because I want through my stories to tell something that is, you can make a parallelism to nowadays, to what happens now. For example, my last book, the one I presented yesterday, speaks about immigrants coming from Italy to Buenos Aires in the 20s. And of course, the parallelism with all the boats in the Mediterranean coming from Africa and coming to Europe, it's very, very clear. So I can be inspired, for example, watching the news and seeing this story and trying to understand it better, putting it in another period when it happens already, because we are history. We might be able to learn from history if we study it, if we know it. I see Chris that is laughing, but it is exactly like this. And then I have the theater. I am ravished to work with the theater because, and I always have been, because it makes me even more, I can use irony, because in the books, normally it's an historical novel. I write crimes, thrillers, crime stories, because they are exciting. There is adventures. There is love, but normally not a lot of irony, being crime stories based in another period and so on. And in theater, I can use it because I realized, first, it is because it's part of my life. And second, because you learn better, you understand, you listen better. Also, when I teach, I always use irony. I sometimes use bad words to shock the public. I was last last week. Yeah, I was last week teaching in a university, writing, creative writing, and I was using a bad word extra, and then I was like, my God, I did it. Because in the everyday use, sometimes you use it, so they were laughing, then we spoke about it, and it was interesting. So theater is an inspiration to to tell stories directly and use different tools. Moreover, it is kind of 5 years that I'm working with a percussionist that is a very, very famous percussionist in Italy. He played all over the world. He's a great artist. He paints and everything. And so everything has to have a rhythm. And also when we are on stage, for example, everything has to be at the point with the rhythm. If not, now I'm learning as well from him this thing that I have in the writing, and even more now in the theater and in all what we do. So inspiration can come from a story from somebody, can come from a fact that happens, and they tell about it in the news, and then it reminds me of something. In this period happened this, and then I want to tell it. For example, we were speaking at the beginning of this conversation about women and history of women with Giorgio Rizzo, that is this percussionist I'm working with. We have a play that we bring on stage, we brought in the universities, where we speak about the historical roots of how women have been, let's say, put aside in the society. And I start with the Grande Madre, with the Big Mother, means when God was a woman, means before history, within prehistory, coming up till nowadays, going through all what happened. It's a play, it's interesting, and we do it with music. Because also with music, unexpectedly working together and speaking and chatting and discussing, we found out that music follows this thing. Music at the beginning was more done for the female, and then it became martial music, for example. The rhythm changed. And so the inspiration, it's very difficult to answer this question. It's half an hour that I'm speaking about it because I can be inspired by lots of things.
Great question. Would someone else like to ask a question? Don't be shy. Any other questions for Giada? Or comments? I know there's been some comments in the chat.
Yeah, you should read them, the comments. What are they?
So the comments, if you can't see the comments, Walad has had a few nice comments. There's been a few thanks as well. Walad has had a very interesting comment about, men were afraid of the capacity of women, and this fear sort of caused women to be repressed. And I think
there is a very famous Roman public figure. He was also a lawyer. He was a senator. He was called Catone il Censore, Catone the Censor, I think it might be in English. And in the first century before Christ, he said, as soon as women will be made as equal to us, they will be superior. First century before Christ. So better not let them study and do things, keep them at home.
I'm sorry, that is happening right now with the Muslim people. They put out the women right now. Is happening in Muslim,
I think so. Well, not in all parts of the world, but in maybe some of the more conservative places, there can be some obstacles. It's true.
I wrote a book that is called Il Convento dei Segreti. This is only in Italian at the moment. It's the Convent of Secrets. And it speaks about what I said at the beginning, these women that were pushed and forced to become nuns. And it is exactly when religion takes a big part in the lives, and especially it is one of the monotheistic ones, women are pushed down. And so it is very clear. I speak about this in Sicily in 17th century, but it doesn't have any difference in what is happening now in certain places. Actually, at the beginning, the book was supposed to be called The Veil, because you cover in a way or another, and the result is the same.
Yeah, it's incredible in this time, in the technology and everything, and still the women in these places have to walk behind the husband, and have too much.
Also, Japanese women have to walk 2 steps behind the man.
Just
to say yes.
Oh, I didn't know. Okay.
We have another comment. Fatima has said, asked if your books are on Amazon. Why don't you send us afterwards? I'll send it in the book. I'll send it in the speaking club, but you'll send us a link to everything.
Yeah, no problem. They are on Amazon. You can have them also in ebook if you prefer to read ebook.
Okay.
And in English, you will find The Scarlet Lady, that is in Italy, 1938. And there is an enigma that comes from the past at the time of the Pope Borgia, means in the Renaissance, beginning of 16th century. And so it's a double line, fascism and Renaissance. And then there is The Vampire of Venice, that there is no vampire. It's not a story of vampires. It's not Dracula, but it speaks about the superstition. And actually, The Vampire of Venice comes, apropos inspiration, comes from the finding of bones. And if you Google it, you do The Vampire of Venice, and you put, for example, National Geographic, you will see the skeleton that they found on one of the islands in Venice, in Lazzaretto Nuovo, during archaeological diggings, with a brick in the mouth. It was a woman, and it was the superstition that said that she was chewing. She was a a chewer, and it is the beginning of becoming a vampire because she was chewing, you know, because the noises were, yeah, she was chewing, the noises were strange, and she was chewing what? Her hands, all the corpses around her, because there was the Black Death in Venice at the end of 16th century, and when they didn't know all the four phases of how a body disappears. They knew the beginning and the end, but not in the middle, because it was always buried. But with the Black Death, they were opening and closing, because they would put other people. And when they would open, then they would find bodies with very big belly, all the mouth around here, yeah, dark red with blood, the teeth longer, the nails longer, and they were thinking that they would come out of the coffin or the grave, exactly, eating blood to stay alive, because the blood is life, and even in the Bible it's written, I think it's Levitico, that is written, the blood, the life is in the blood. So they would suck the blood of the living and revenge, and take revenge of all the things that have been done to them in the life. Of course, this is not it's a superstition that comes from the not knowing what happens to a body with the gases that inflates, with the teeth that are growing. No, they are not growing. It's the
gum is receding,
gum,
isn't
exactly,
it?
the gum that is receding. The nails is the same thing. And then since you have all the gases, a little bit of the blood of all the things inside, they come out of the mouth. So all around here looks like bloody. And this is why how it was born, the superstition. Of course, when they found this corpse, this actually it was a skeleton already, because they found her in 2009, I think. I had the idea. I said, "Oh, fantastic!" Then I am in Venice. There is the Black Death, and there are certain killings, horrible killings, that some people believe that are coming from the vampires, from the chewers. And so they put to, you know, investigate a necromant. And some others, the man of the Renaissance, that has got reason as first things and doesn't believe in superstition, says, "Oh, stop it. It can't be any monster. This is a man thing." And so I invented the book. And this you can find in English.
Who else has a question for Giada? Anyone else have a question? Can be anything you're curious about. Maybe life in Italy. What's it like to live in Italy? Some of you
Wonderful.
might.
It is wonderful. I'm back after 20 years in the deep north, and now I'm very happy to have the sun back.
Well, a final question. Anyone like to ask a question before we go?
I have just one question, teacher Korten.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, dear Giada, for all what you are add to us. Okay, I just want to know about success. What means success for you? It means to have a strong willing to challenge yourself, to fear the fear barrier. Okay, and to be a positive person. Even your environment can't help you to get or achieve your goal. Also, the time. Can you tell us some few details about management your time, okay, for be a successful woman? Because you are lady and you have a children and you are a housewife, okay. In the same time, you write books. It takes a lot of time from you.
Thanks a lot for the question. It's a very good one. What success means to me in short, I would say the trip, the travel, because it's never the reaching of it. It's the whole street that you
Journey.
have to do, the journey that you have to do. And it's never over, you know? It's never, yes, I've been successful with this book, but my book, the last book for me, it's always in the head, the one that I am going to write. So it's never reaching it. Probably only when I will be dead, I will reach it and rest. I don't want to lose time, and I want to go on researching, learning, and have the chance to do it. There is also a part, for example, that we are women, and sometimes success is not seen the same way. We are changing it. I'm sure it is going to be a little bit changed. And what I do, for example, I love to wear dresses and high heels and go dancing, and Chris knows it very well. And when I am at conferences or at festivals like yesterday, I always wear the pumps with 12 centimeters high heels, and then I say intelligent things. And very often I do the joke and I say, ha, you thought that I could walk on these heels without, and I can also say now interesting and intelligent things. It's incredible, don't you think? So, because I don't want to renounce to my femininity, to the beauty of being a female, to the beauty of being a mother, of taking care of the kids and everything. But I love to demonstrate that an artist is an artist. We don't discuss about the sex of angels, do we? Why should we discuss about the sex of of artists? Or it's I hate, for example, when they put me in the ghetto, in the female ghetto. I am one of the few, I don't know if nowadays living, the only historian that writes in Italy historical novels. I have a PhD in history. I studied history all my life. I taught history in university. I am an historian. I have all the tools, and I write nice stories, historical thrillers. I am the only one. And when they invite me in festivals and they say, here are the historical thrillers or the historical novel people, the session, and you are in the female historical people, I say, I'm not coming. I'm not going in the ghetto. I am an historian. There is no difference. Yes, a woman and a man that write, maybe they have a different point of view that is interesting to see, but I don't go in the ghetto. Why should I put myself in a ghetto? I'm an historian. I really know what it is about. Why do you have to make a difference? I learned that they make a difference because, yeah, the ghetto, exactly. It's a lower level. There are some of these writers, for example, that don't like to come on stage with me because they are not historians and they speak about things they know more or less. And sometimes I dared, oh my God, I dared to say, excuse me, it's not correct what you're saying. So, and if a man does it, it's a discussion. If a woman does it, it's like, so yeah, this is in a way some of the parts what this kind of success. I don't know if I'm successful. What I know is that I am happy to do what I do, and I do it because I believe in it. And for me, it is success.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Any other questions for Giada before we go?
Yeah, hello. Can I?
Yes, please. Who's this?
It's Damila. Hello to everyone. First of all, thank you so much for Giada and for Professor for this amazing life. For also for Giada because she is how to say, for her time, which she And I have a question. It's not about it's not related to Giada specialist, or it's more related to the Italian life. Can I ask you about it?
Yeah, of course. And in the meanwhile, I answer, yes, I do use improvisation sometimes on stage. Because I saw written something, like when I speak also in when I do lessons or festivals. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Giada, which university you can recommend in the north part of Italy for the student who planning to educate in the international relationship?
Oof, this is a difficult question. So, okay, Italians are Italians, you know. International cities are, of course, Rome and Milan, but it depends what the students are looking for. because it depends if they want to study art, if they want to study technical stuff, if they want to have a feeling of a certain life that might not be so international, but is really international. I'm thinking about Sicily, for example, that it's a place where everybody always in thousands of years have been accepted and welcomed, and it still is. It depends if you want to do Beaux-Arts, and then I would suggest Florence. If you want to go to the oldest university in the world and see a medieval city, then it's my city, that is Bologna. And so it depends. If you want to be an engineer, you should go to the Politecnico in Milan, Pisa, or in Turin.
I think she mentioned international relations, though.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
maybe we'll
exactly, yeah.
politics. Maybe, yeah, maybe the bigger cities. I'm thinking.
Rome and Milan, Bologna a lot as well.
Mhm.
The bigger cities are more international, but it is incredible. I found international people in little villages. So it's, yeah, if you would have international relationship, I would go to the big cities. Turin is more, there are more French, for example. Milan, and Rome are very, very open. Bologna being a university, the oldest university in the world, you find everything. You find students and professors and people living there from everywhere. And yeah, I think those are the most international ones.
Yeah, thank you, Giada. Yeah, we have the dilemma now between the Bologna University and the Turin University, and I just
Which faculty?
the international relationship.
So
I would go to
politics.
Bologna. I would go to
Politics, yeah.
Bologna because it's my, not because it's only my city. They are both beautiful, but it's yeah, it's funnier. The food is great. Very near to the sea.
Thank you
D'Amelia
so much.
yeah, D'Amelia is writing or calling us from Kazakhstan, I think, in
Okay.
the north.
Yeah,
Thank you,
of course.
D'Amelia.
Thank you.
Who else would like to share? I think we've got a few messages here.
Yeah, can you read that for me? Without glasses, I don't read anything.
No problem. What type? So Natalie asked a question. What type of genre in theater do you like the most? Maybe you can answer it in two ways quickly: as an actress, as a performer, and as an observer in the audience.
Okay, as a performer and an audience, I like everything from opera to tragedy, comedies, everything. I love it because it's all different lights that give me all different inspiration and emotions and sensations. When I'm on stage, I know that I am best with something witty and maybe ironic. And I love to make people laugh because the power of laughing is first exercise a lot of fears, the fear of dying, the fears of whatever. You can make fun of on everything and it exercise it. And at the other side, it has a cathartic power. So I love to do comedy and make people laugh.
Cathartic is very nice, very emotional.
Yeah.
Cathartic. All right. Excellent. Great question, Natalie. And yes, Giada is very good at improvisation. I've seen it many times. She's very gifted. This might be one of her best gifts, is to improvise. She also, by the way, if any of you love Italian or want to learn Italian or are learning Italian, then you have to check out her blog. I will give you the link after the meeting in the Instagram chat that we have about her Facebook blog and also her Instagram blog, so you can always find her. Are there any other questions before we go? Anyone else want to ask a question? Well, I am overjoyed that you found time to join us. And I think all of us are very grateful. So Giada, from all of us, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. It was very nice being with you. It's really, really cool.
Great. All right. You'll have an access to contact her in the future if you want. Also, her books and about her life, you can follow her
Yeah,
on
you
social
can write
media
me.
also.
You can, you know, you find me online. You find me on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, whatever. Just write me. It's no problem at all.
Thank you, Giada. Thank you, everyone, for
Thanks a lot.
coming. I appreciate it.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye bye.